Oh, okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Live at Miss Allison's. I am here with Danielle Keperling from Keperling Preservation Services. I'm super excited to have her here. I know that there's a whole lot of history in Columbia, and really preserving that history is really important. And Danielle's company really takes the architecture of a lot of the buildings that are around here and does a lot of really good things for them. So, Danielle, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you're from and what you do and all the good stuff?
Very good. I'm from Keperling Preservation Services. We restore 18th, 19th, early 20th century buildings. My husband and I have been doing this together for 3 years. Before that, my parents, we worked with my parents as historic restorations. They retired 3 years ago, maybe almost 4 years ago now. I'm starting to lose track of time. And we kind of looked at each other. We had, like, at that point, we had 20 employees. We just were crazy busy. Everything was kind of out of control. We looked at each other and said, is this fun? Like, should we go get real jobs? And we decided to kind of scale back, just have a couple people, a good core of people, and do, take on less projects, but do more and better work, because, it wasn't fun every day wondering if everybody was going to come into work, all the issues of managing people and their issues that they bring with them.
Yeah, no, it's a very true fact about having a business with employees.
Yeah. So we scaled back, we rebranded, started doing more consulting work. So we're still doing construction work also, and now we're able to. I feel like, especially with my consulting work, because I do primarily that, I feel like I'm able to actually impact more preservation than when we're just doing projects.
Nice.
Because I'm able to give input on projects that we're maybe not directly working on, but be able to help do more preservation.
Nice. So have you done any work on, like, the local buildings here in Columbia?
I was just trying to think about that when we were starting to talk. We've looked at projects in Columbia. I can't think of one specifically that we have worked on. We worked some in Wrightsville, so that's just across the river, and then we've worked in Lancaster, and then we say Mid-Atlantic. Like right now, we're working for the federal government in Maryland. So so we do travel also. I'm just trying to. I don't think we've done any. I was at the Columbia Historical Society though. Right before Halloween, to do a podcast, like a haunted podcast.
Oh, so cool!
With Chris Vera.
Nice. He's actually coming on to do a history lesson with me.
So he has a lot of great stories. So I was trying to think about, like, but we did look at that steeple there, but I think that it was a funding issue.
Nice.
And oftentimes that's how our projects develop, is that, like, people call us, have us come out and look. We'll kind of get pricing. They got multiple bids, but they said everybody was pretty much equal. And then it takes a couple years, especially for nonprofits, to get the funding together and everything. And then we just kind of nurture those relationships, like we were talking about the marketing, and then eventually, the project comes around.
So if you're and I apologize, I'm only vaguely familiar with what you do, so it's kind of nice. I get to start fresh and ask you questions myself. So if you're, like, you consult, so, like, you go and you look at the property and you look at, like, the types of things that need to be restored.
That's one of the things that we do. I do maintenance on it. So, like, if somebody already owns a house and they just want to have, like, a 5-year plan so that they can kind of plan their projects and their budget, we do that.
Oh,
and then we also
I have a few people to send your way.
and then we also do, that just made me think, we did do a project in Columbia. We restored in, like, 2010. We restored the windows of the Columbia Market House.
Oh, now that's a big topic right now.
Yes,
that is a super hot topic.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just have to remember. Keep going through my brain.
The number of times I have looked through those windows, just walking around town and trying to do different things with the people that are here, and that's awesome. I'm so glad that you have some kind of foot in there. That's kind of cool.
And then we do, the other consulting that I do is like for some historical societies have easements on properties. So, and that means that you can't change the exterior of the building, and you get tax credits. There's a whole, it's complicated. But the nonprofit then has to monitor those easements. So then I'll go out and monitor and let them know if there's things that need to be corrected. And then we'll also, if somebody wants to, like, do a project but we're far away, or we will then also, come do specifications, give them everything that they need to do so that they know.
All right, I'm just going to go ahead and throw it at you. Have you ever heard of the art printing company at the bottom of Locust Street?
I have. When the historic, Lancaster County Historic Preservation Trust of Lancaster County did their tour a year and a half ago or so in the fall. I was stationed there. And that's a really cool building. And I thought one thing I thought that was really interesting about that building is that it was originally built as a residence, but it was only a residential for like 2 years, and then it immediately got converted into commercial.
I was the one that painted the parlor.
Oh, very cool.
So I'm like, I think that's good. Because I know I was there too for the architectural tour for a little while, so maybe we did bump into each other.
We might have.
It's entirely possible.
That staircase in there, and I don't think it's visible.
That's what I was
usually.
About to ask you about.
That staircase in there is beautiful, and it reminds me of a staircase in Lancaster at the Montgomery House, it was part of it's now incorporated in the convention center. So like if you go down the stairs at the convention center, you see that round bump out. That's that staircase. And those buildings are almost the same age. So I would be curious if they had either the same builder or the same architect. They're at least that staircase is very similar.
How cool would that be?
Yes.
Oh, I love history, and that's why I love art printing and all those people in there and all the things that they're doing. And I know just from working with Chris and Amy personally, they had talked a lot about trying to find grants and things so that they can start working on reconstructing that staircase in some fashion, but it's incredibly expensive. So I was kind of curious. I was like, I wonder if you even know how to. And so if you were to work with somebody's budget who owned a building that was trying to do something with it, that would be an ideal customer for you.
Yes, I mean and I would say. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky because people think, oh, there's grants for preservation. There's grants for nonprofits and sometimes businesses. There's not grants for homeowners, and there's not even government funding for homeowners. And I understand the reasoning. It's because they don't want to subsidize people that already have a lot of money just to renovate their house and give them more value. But there are definitely programs for if they're income producing properties. So like a business, rental properties. Bed and breakfast, anything that you can think of that would be income producing. There's definitely programs for that, and there's programs for there's grants then also for nonprofits through the Pennsylvania Historic Museum Commission. I always want to flip the museum to historic.
There's a lot of associations to keep straight around here, and that's take whatever time you need to get it out. That's so awesome. I didn't realize that is exactly what you guys did, and I'm really glad to hear that. There's actually a lot of places and buildings around here in Columbia there's some beautiful buildings in Columbia.
I really love Columbia as a little town. Just around the corner from here, there's I don't know if they've finished it. They were talking about renovating the firehouse. I love that firehouse. And there's another firehouse.
They are talking about it. I'm just not allowed to.
But there's just so much fun architecture, and there's so many different periods of architecture. Because Columbia was a very prosperous town, and I'm sure you'll get into that with the history with Chris. But it was a very prosperous town, and there's some beautiful architecture.
Yeah, I could walk around all day, and I do walk around all day here. It's true. Even some of the homes just going down both Locust Street and Walnut Street, especially once you get closer to the river, you really stop on the sidewalk and look up, and it's you have homes that just have these beautiful French cast iron awnings going the whole way up the building, and there are a lot of people who are already here who have taken a lot of those older buildings and just renovated them and turned them into the same beautiful things that they should be. And you walk down and you see that, and it's it fills you with so much hope, this is here already, and it's happening.
Yeah, and visiting the Wrights Ferry Mansion, I mean, this was the frontier.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. In fact, the first time I came into Columbia, I had moved over to Wrightsville, and I was there for a couple of months, and I was like, okay, well, I keep going over to Columbia because it seems like everything's over there, which is kind of how everybody in Wrightsville, what they do.
Right.
And I decided to I just had a little free time one morning, and I went on my Google, and I'm like, all right, let's see if there's any art galleries over here, right? So the first thing that popped up was Garth.
Yeah.
And Garth is like right there on 2nd Street with the ferry and a couple other wonderfully historical buildings. I now have a really good friend named Devin who lives on the other side of the Wrights Ferry.
Yeah.
And I first went into Garth and I'm like, okay, this looks like my spot. We got coffee, we got art, you know. So like I go up there and I find my way up to the 2nd floor and I just see the coffee bar and Clee's there, and it was my first time meeting Clee. And he went and sat with me for like an hour and just told me about all the historical things that Columbia has to offer. And that was my very first impression of anywhere going to Columbia, and it made a huge impression on me. Like, obviously here I am, I never left, right? And it really was the history that really drew me over here. And a lot of the contacts that I made over the last couple of years, most of them are people who just happen to own the buildings that I just wanted to poke my nose into. And so it's nice to be able to talk to somebody who helps with the preservation of those types of things. And it would be nice to see you get more involved here. Wiggle, wiggle, nudge, nudge if you need it. But that's cool. So you have a lot of projects down in Maryland too.
We work Mid-Atlantic. So we've worked in DC. We worked in Maryland, Philadelphia. I say Mid-Atlantic, but we that's a general area. We've gone as far. We do take a lot of things back to the shop to work on, and then take them back to install, so we can work further away. So I think the furthest we've gone was Maine, but we built doors and then took them up to install. So like that's it's not so hard. They're gone for 3 days.
Right.
Yeah, it's not like they're gone for 6 months.
Nice. That's really neat. Now we have all kinds of other questions to think about. So trying to think. The Montgomery house that's in Lancaster.
Yes.
See, now you've got me thinking on the staircase thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be stuck on that for a minute. I'm sorry. And the Market House. We gotta get you into some networks in here. There's a lot of people here. Do you know anybody that's on like the HARB?
The
work with them?
I did before there was the shakeup, maybe 6 months ago. And I think Matt Barley's on there now. I think he just got installed. I think it's like I can't remember what they call them.
I don't really know either. I'm still kind of learning, and I am fortunate enough to.
And I had met Matt through my work at the Preservation Trust, but he lives in Columbia, and
Well, maybe we should get him on here too. Say hello.
Yes.
I know I'm doing stuff with the ad hoc planning committee, which is really cool. I wasn't expecting that email, and when I thought it popped up, I was like, "Oh wow, that's really neat."
Yes.
And I know that there's a woman named Sharon Cino, C-I-N-O, I think that's. Sorry, Sharon, if I didn't pronounce that correctly. No offense meant whatsoever. But just I know that she's also on that committee, so I'm just like curious, like where are my connections? Who can I hook up together and network together? And, so I'm just trying to like poke my nose in and figure out what I can do to help things move along here. But that's so like, what are, if you were to work with like the HARB like that? So like when you do like preservation work, does it like?
So usually like the HARB is an advisory committee to city council. That's how these like I can't remember what the official name because they're like government agencies. They're an extension of like the planning commission, but they're advisory. So usually they have an architect, a realtor, a homeowner. Like they have a wide variety of people. And if you have a project within the HARB district that you want to change the exterior of the building, you have to go to them to ask permission. And they either approve or deny, and then they can send it to city council, and city council can override them. A lot of that's the same in any city that has a HARB in Pennsylvania. That's just how these community, I think they're called community government groups, something like that, are structured. And that's through the State Office of Historic Preservation. But they, so typically like when I interact with a HARB, it's because we have a project that we are presenting to them. For years, like 15 years, my mom was on the Historic Commission, which is in Lancaster. There's 2 historic districts. There's the HARB, which is like the more strict historic district, and then there's the Heritage Conservation District, which is pretty much the rest of the city.
Gotcha.
And there's less rules. You can replace windows. You can, but if you want to demolish anything or if you want to add anything, then you need to get permission.
Gotcha.
So, but my mom was on that for like 15 years, so I got pretty familiar with.
I didn't even know there were two different.
Yeah, I don't think there are in Columbia, but like in some cities,
that's
like you can, the city chooses to adopt it.
That's cool.
And so, but
it's neat to learn how the growth works.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting, and I feel like I need to learn more. I was actually thinking about taking some classes in, just because some of my consulting work gets into like regulations that I haven't had to deal with in my regular business.
Right.
That like I feel like I need to understand a little bit better.
You need to make sure you're doing it right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but where was I going with the HARB? Oh, so that's usually how I interact with HARB. And actually, honestly, because our projects are, people who hire us tend to want to be sensitive to the historic. So usually our projects can get signed off on the staff level. So there's usually a staff person for the city or the borough that says that looks at a project and says this fits all the parameters. There's nothing that we would have to get variances or exemptions for, and then they can just sign off on it. So usually we don't have to go to HARB, but people who are on a HARB board are people that would be, people we work with, definitely.
Wow, how cool. Well, thank you for filling me in on how that works. I'm learning quite a bit just sitting here with you, which is a good thing. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the podcast that you guys are doing?
So we have a practical preservation podcast. I think we have almost 80 episodes now, so we're almost to 100.
I'm inspired.
I'm kind of excited. My vision is, and I have to get people working on it because I don't have time to do it. But I want to get them transcribed and put into like a book form for the 100th episode, because I just think that would. I consume better in print than I do audio, but I know that a lot of people prefer audio. So I think giving people different ways to consume is a good thing. But we interview different thought leaders in preservation. So I try to talk to like material manufacturers, tradespeople, different people, authors, academics. Like I try to get a wide variety of people, and different people that are maybe just into history. Once in a while, I'm into like food history. So every once in a while, I'll like bring a food history person on just because I want to talk to them.
Listen, it's your podcast. You do what you want.
And once in a while, I'll get a message is like, I would think that you'd be more focused on preservation. And like, it's all preservation. If you're talking about heirloom seeds that have been here for 300 years that we're still using, that's preservation.
It sure is. And it's amazing.
Right.
On top of that,
It is.
think about how much time and care goes into making sure that those things stay in their line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I enjoy talking to you. I have not had an interview that I didn't learn something. I really do. I enjoy it. So I feel like it's I'm so glad that like people are like willing to like talk to me, once a week so that I can, get our podcast up.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. It is. It's so true. I enjoy it. And once in a while somebody will call me and be like, do you know somebody that does this? I'm like, oh, they were on the podcast. And I can send it out right away.
That's how it works, baby.
Yeah.
That's how it works. I'm glad to hear you say that you try to do other random little things that you enjoy, and I have brought that up on just about every of our episodes so far. Anytime somebody used the word enjoy, I always point it out, because it is so important to make sure that like you are enjoying what you're doing, because you are also setting the example for the people that are watching you, right? And if you're not enjoying what you're doing, well then why would anybody else?
Right. And you don't want to be miserable.
No.
And life is too short to be miserable.
No, you're so right. You are so right. It is way too short, and we need to be making sure that we're making the most of our time and doing what's fulfilling for us as individuals, and it's good to set that example too.
Yeah. I think I said before we started recording about getting. Oh no, I said it during the recording about getting real jobs, and I was thinking, I was kind of having like a mini existential crisis this week, and I'm like, maybe I've never had a big girl job, and I'm like, Danielle, get yourself together.
You don't need a big girl job. You're running your own.
I know. I'm like, what more?
You're the biggest girl in town.
I'm like, what more big girl can you get, Danielle? Like, I'm like giving myself a pep talk.
Listen, those things are important too. Like self-motivation, it's true. We need these things, and and I even I started a small business group for just the women business owners in town, because I don't think anybody's done that yet.
Right.
And one thing that I had mentioned in my group this morning is every morning I try to post a little motivational quote, just be like, "Hey queens,
Yes.
listen up, this is your pep talk." And it's funny because I'm starting to get some of my queens messaging me in the mornings just to let me know, like, "Hey girl, this is for you too."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh,
That's
thank you."
very sweet.
But it's true, we all need to, mindset is an important thing. And it's also about who you choose to surround yourself with, So growing your network and making sure that you're around the right kinds of people is also super important.
It is.
So that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of that
Thank
with
you.
me. And it's so nice to have a fellow podcaster in town. Hey! And that being said, if you are on my network and you're watching this, or you're on my lineup and you're watching this, if you're interested in being in another podcast, go check out what they're doing over here, because they might be looking for you too. I said before we started, hey, I have a network. Use it. I have resources. Go ahead and just pull from them as you can.
Oh, definitely.
So for anybody that's watching, if you want to go and hang out with Danielle for an afternoon and talk about some wonderfully historical stuff, you should totally go check her out.
And the other thing that twice now, I think 2 of our podcasts we've done with homeowners, and I really enjoy that opposite side of, so like if anybody's a homeowner that just wants to talk about their house. Devin Fisher next to the Wrights Ferry Mansion.
You want to go see Danielle?
Yeah, so definitely reach out, because I would be happy to talk to you.
Yeah, in fact, I think she also knows the couple that just moved in across the street from her and are refinishing that particular house as well.
Very
so
cool.
hopefully she's watching, and
Yes.
I'll send her a message after this too.
Yeah.
Because if you enjoy doing the homeowners, they really are just gorgeous houses. And every time I'm over there, she's like, "You want to go look in the basement? You want to go see what's going on there?" And she's like, "I'm taking this wall down upstairs. You should check this out." I'm like, "Oh!" And it's like so cool to watch things change and move and be restored and appreciated. And on top of that, it's
definitely.
yes, there's so much wonderful history here, and we should be building off of that.
Yes, I definitely agree.
Yes. So, well, thank you very
Thank you.
much. And if there's anything
I'm glad
else,
you reached out to me.
yeah, if there's anything else you can think of that you want to throw in there, add in there, you're more than welcome to use the time.
I think that's good. Our website's practicalpreservationservices.com, and we do have a Facebook. It's Keperling Preservation Services, and it's Keperling Preservation, I think, on Instagram. But pretty much, I just post the same at both places. So.
And I did tag you guys on this video too. So if you can't find it, you should be able to just click the name on the video and find it right away. It'll take you right there.
Okay,
So.
very good. Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
You're welcome. Thanks for making your way over here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And before I log off here, I am going to just throw in a few things that are coming up this week. We are doing our very next Paint and Pint at Columbia Kettle Works on Saturday from 6 to 9 p.m. Tickets are still available. Kim, I saw you sign up right before this started. Thank you. I'm so excited to paint with you. The tickets are available. They're $25 per person. First round of drinks is on me, and 10% off all food items courtesy of Mr. Bill Collister. So please get signed up for that. There's still time. I haven't quite gotten materials yet, so hopefully I'll see all of you wonderful love bugs for a Valentine's Day Part 2 next weekend to paint that steampunk love heart. So see you later, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week with Rock's Cardio to kick some butt.